Good morning. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods Village, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation. This is January 2nd, 2018. Happy New Year to one and all. My name is Beth Pierrick, and I'm calling this meeting to order, and I am asking if Judith Troutman would lead us in the pledge, please.
Yes. And just a reminder, whether you're watching from home or here in the room, if you are a military veteran, you have the option to salute the flag during the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Acknowledging the media. Yes, aye. Good morning. Approval of agenda.
I so move.
Okay. Second, all in favor? Thank you. Approval of the minutes of the meeting of December 5th. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Oh, you got a second.
Jim, second. Okay. All those in favor? Great. Report of the chair. This morning, President Tom Circle is not feeling well, and Secretary Joan Millman is also not feeling well. So 2 people absent from the board today, and several people suffering from sniffles and whatnot. I think it must be January. What do you think? And we do miss them. Taking a look at 2018, I was thinking about this and thinking there are so many things that are identified needs in our community that we're going to be looking at. We are continuing to look at the offerings that Village TV has, and it's continuing to grow. The offerings are continuing to grow. We continue to address the transportation needs throughout our village. The updating of the gates continues. Recreation offerings such as the new gym in Clubhouse 5, you may want to go visit that, continues, and there are many other offerings and needs that we will be looking at throughout this new year. On today's agenda, we have a number of motions that have met the 30-day notification requirement. Just a little reminder that the 30-day period is in place so citizens may comment or critique the actions noted in that motion. And always remember that resident input is so very important. Today we'll also have committee reports. Please consider attending committee meetings. That's another thing that as a cheerleader, I would love to have you coming to our committee meetings and giving your input. We're always looking for what it was the input of our citizens. We look forward to accomplishing positive results in our service to the community in 2018. Thank you. An update from VMS Director Lisa Bender.
Good morning and Happy New Year to everybody. I am Lisa Bender, a member of the VMS board. For those of you not familiar with the VMS board, we are 9 members appointed by GRF and the mutuals, and I'm one of the GRF appointees. Our function as a board is to provide oversight to VMS management and all issues related to employees. We continually benchmark compensation, benefit comparisons, monitor IT development, organization design, and improvement to customer service, among other issues. We meet bi-weekly and operate primarily through 2 mechanisms. A strategic plan that now has 60-plus items on it that touch each of the 5 goals. We have exemplary customer service, facilitation of efficient operations, providing a safe community, transparent communication, and becoming an employer of choice. The second mechanism we use is meeting directly with the senior staff and reviewing their progress on a rotating basis. Today, I just want to highlight some of the recent activities. We recently did a review of the strategic plan and showed how dynamic the plan is. It's a living document with items added, deleted, or completed. 25 of the 60 items have been completed. Things like new budget software was implemented over this last year, making business planning much easier for the staff and the mutuals. Caregiver application process was implemented. Enforcement protocols have been streamlined. Disaster preparedness and neighborhood watch program implement, and an increase in the quality and quantity of communication to residents, like the e-blasts and broadcasts from the CEO on Village TV. We also implemented a resident and employee referral program necessary to the low unemployment rate in the OC. We're still looking for experienced project managers, so send them on, please. 24 of the 60 items are on target. These include such items as handyman services. The target date for rolling out that program is currently March. Recreation has increased the quality and types of events since the start of 2017. Hoedowns, shopping excursions, the recent holiday buffet, and New Year's concert at the Performing Arts Center, which I had 4 tickets to but didn't attend. Okay, Brian Gruner and his staff, they just rock. Electric vehicles are being integrated into our fleet, and residents have been assisted with charging stations. Lighting is being converted to LED whenever possible. Some items have been postponed. For example, our CRM system, Customer Relationship Management System. Chuck is looking at smaller implementations of functionality to forestall the large expense and difficulty of installation of such a system. Okay, do you know who's been spending much of the budget this year? Ernesto. Ernesto and his team in the maintenance and operations divisions, nearly $24 million in 2017, and that's just through October. Projects have included the Clubhouse 5 heating and air conditioning, fitness center in the community center, the simulstat antenna, United and Third Solar, paving. Do you know that we have 54.69 center miles of pavement? I'm not really sure what a center mile is, but that's a lot of concrete going out. Roofing and waste lines. Catch Ernesto give his presentation on Village TV, and you too can learn more than you ever wanted to know about waste lines and how our hydraulics are bad in the buildings, the original buildings. Okay, there are a couple of other things you might not know. Did you know that there were 43 calls for plumbing during the Thanksgiving weekend? All were answered and resolved, and only 2 had to be sent out to vendors. Otherwise, our own staff was able to deal with 41 of them. I don't know, Lori, do you know what the Christmas statistics are for? Nah. Okay. And did you know that Chief Moy is working with the OC Emergency Services to ensure there is medication available to us if there's a disaster, just locally with pharmacies? And did you know that both our community manager and our HR director are leaving in the spring? These folks will be very hard to replace. And finally, do you know that we want all of you to consider becoming active in the governance of our community? Right now, join us as an advisor and lend your expertise. Consider becoming a board meeting. come to the meetings. So that's 2 invitations within the first half hour, right, Beth? Okay, good. Thank you very much for your time. And attention, asante san, which means thank you in Swahili. I've just come back from Tanzania. And jumbo jumbo.
Cute.
Thank you, Lisa. And now, our CEO report, and I'm guessing that Lori Moss, our community manager, will be delivering that.
I am. Happy New Year, everybody. We're real happy to be here. I have a quick PowerPoint here. I asked our department heads to give me at least 2 items to update you with. Okay, great. Thank you, Cheryl. So first of all, I want to talk a little bit about landscaping, and that is under the direction of Bruce Hartley. So one more. Yep, thanks. So we recently this past year refurbished both garden centers to address the declining aesthetics and the lack of security, safety, the need for greater safety and waiting lists. So how did staff do that? They assessed walkway and soil retention, and to address the tension, they redid the mortar block in many areas, and then luckily and gratefully, lessees brought their plots up to code, and mulch areas were improved. And then additionally in landscaping, Arbor Pro tree inventory and management system just hit the ground running this year. We were so excited. They inventoried 33,000 trees in the community, and data includes information on species, location, size, condition, and value of trees. The really great thing about this is now we have a lot more reporting. We're able to, during landscape meetings, talk about the value of each of the assets, which in this case I mean trees. And then eventually very soon residents are going to be able to log on and see their requests and see what's happening with their trees in their area. So that'll become a lot more transparent with regard to customer service. And then I wanted to talk a little bit about maintenance and construction. So Clubhouse 5 was one of the big things that Lisa talked about. Ernesto's spending the most money here. You can see that replaced the built-up roof with a cool roof and a total replacement of the HVAC equipment. Now, this is going to save a lot of money with regard to us being able to control it a lot better, particularly in different rooms. We did this by installing 13 new HVAC units, new gas supply regulators. We upgraded the ductwork, smoke alarm equipment, re-roof all the flat roofed areas with cool roofs, and we installed the energy management system, which means it's all computerized now, and you can see before and after there. Recreation. Here we have construction of the fitness center. What we did, as everybody knows, is we relocated the fitness center from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor. It's a new spacious 4,200 square foot fitness center, and includes a new main entrance, and it's designed for convenient access from the exterior so that you can work at the fitness center when this building isn't open, work out. And it has a state-of-the-art equipment and flooring, and it's busy all the time. More on recreation. Brian provided some operational data here, and particularly with marketing and communication services. I love it when the recreation guy talks about communication and marketing. As you know, we did Village Life this year, which was a quarterly magazine. A lot of residents complimented us on that. We have monthly recreation newsletters. We have monthly garden center newsletters, and we have monthly club newsletters now too as well. And we also improved the flyer procedure.
Brian did a lot this year with team building. He worked on job descriptions. He worked on evaluations. He improved customer response times. And our ActiveNet software for recreation is also being improved. Online reservation options are now available. We reduced or eliminated the garden center waiting list. And CAC, along with Brian, did a great job on amending GRF policies this last year. Facility infrastructure improvements includes a par 3 golf office, working on continued improvements to the Performing Arts Center and also new plans for that and review. We have a total remodel of the 19 restaurant coming in soon in 2018. Also, we're going to be working on the driving range and the Clubhouse 7 snack shack. Some of Brian's programs include that he did this year in 2018 will include a spring health and fitness expo at Clubhouse 5, 10 new fitness classes. We are adopting a Marine regiment, and further development of successful events such as Memorial Day, 4th of July, Country Western Hoedown, and the dive-in with the grandkids. Next we have security. And Chief Moy wanted to give us an update on the bike patrol program. Now, this is important because it builds greater trust and community awareness. Officers are more approachable. So what they do is they're able to go down trails and paths where vehicles can't go, and bike officers move between buildings and cul-de-sacs quickly and quietly to enforce various rules and code violations. And then they're stealth, so they get to they get the advantage of hearing and smelling and seeing what's happening immediately, whereas those officers in cars don't have that advantage. So I just want to thank Chief Moy for bringing bikes to the community. We've gotten some really good feedback on that from residents. And then probably most importantly is emergency operations plan. The chief worked with staff and a consultant to update the emergency operations plan and disaster preparedness plan. We implemented an all hazards plan, an incident command system. We developed an organization chart for activation of our EOC, or Emergency Operations Center, and we collaborated with many agencies. You see them there on the screen. So it feels like we did a lot. It was a really busy year. But I also want to give a quick little update on a few other things. So if you got the 8 in 18, we gave an update on KTLA 5 and why that went out. So many of you that are on the Media and Communications Committee or may have seen Chuck's Fireside Chat on Thursday or read the scroll on Village Television, you may have noticed that Channel 5 was not up on New Year's Day, which was unfortunate because a lot of people watched that channel for the Rose Parade. It was on many other channels. You just had to click up and down to see it, so you were still able to see it. But that Channel 5 that many residents are used to watching it on, or like Ray may have set their DVR to record it, it didn't happen. So what happened is Chuck had been in negotiations with KTLA 5 to continue their contract because our contract was up with them. However, they wanted a 200% increase for just 1 year, which is not something that we were willing to do. Chuck was able to negotiate it down 30% to 170% increase for just 1 year, but they wanted the remaining 13% and 17% in the next 2 years. So that wasn't satisfactory for us. It would have been close to $1 million increase in 3 years, and that's just something that we weren't going to do. So we will continue negotiations with them. We're hopeful that they'll come around, but honestly, it's likely that they won't. So we're not willing to spend that much money. We're not willing to spend residents' money and just to have that one station. So our apologies, we'll keep you posted on that, but that's the reason why you couldn't watch the Rose Bowl parade on Channel 5 yesterday. I want to talk a little bit about the energy consulting services. Now, you may have known that Third Mutual has an energy committee, and it's chaired by Bill Walsh. And that energy committee is being expanded. So Third has invited a GRF member, which is Director Juhan, and a United member, which is Director Leonard, to join it. So it's going to be more of a village-wide committee now, which is really important. And one thing that they've asked staff to do is to do a request for proposals to get an energy consultant in to see where we can improve energy and have some cost savings. So Ernesto's working on that request for a proposal. We're hoping to get it done here pretty quick. We'll submit it to the Energy Committee for review, and then we'll send it out and hopefully have somebody on board. If you read that 8 and 18, we are closing down the lawn bowling facility on January 5th for about 2 months for its improvements. We need to let you know that the contractor's going to work 7 days a week to get it done early. And since there's no residents in that area, we're able to do that. But we want to make sure everyone knows, particularly golfers and those that attend Clubhouse 2, that there's going to be heavy equipment coming in and out of Gate 12. So please drive with caution. But we expect it to only last about 2 months. I talked a little bit about Arbor Pro. One thing that I didn't mention is that now all of the crews have laptops, tablets, where they're able to work out in the field, take pictures, so our managers and supervisors don't have to keep running into the office to download reports. They can do it right in the field. So we're going to get some more work out of them. And then we are really excited about the village website having access to Arbor Pro so residents can see an update on what's happening in their area. This Saturday, Plan a Ride will start for the weekend. So from now on, we're going to have Plan a Ride where you can call and have demand service right at your home instead of having to catch a bus on Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays. And so far, it's working really well. So we're excited about adding Saturday. Chief Moy reported this weekend that it was a very quiet weekend. The one thing that he did want us to know about is something that we keep talking about, is that there was one arrest, and it was involving the son of a resident who was trespassing in the community. He had some methamphetamines on him, and so we quickly apprehended him and turned him over to the sheriff's department. Security has a new look. They have a new decal on their vehicles. It's big and bright and blue, and so the vehicles are not going to be as stealth. So if you see one, you need to make sure you don't roll your stops and you control your speeds. One way to stay involved in the governance process is through Granicus. So you can watch it on YouTube. You can watch meetings on YouTube. You can watch these meetings live. You can go to the governance calendar. You can read minutes and agendas. 2 years ago, none of this was possible. So we're really excited about how much information we're able to give in. And then one bit of happy news, at least for one of our landscape supervisors, I'm happy to announce that Larry Hernandez was promoted to the landscape manager position. So Larry's been with us for 10 years. He's very well respected by the crew and staff, and so we're really excited that he's going to be Bruce's number 2 person in the landscape division. And that's it for me.
And now it's time for open forum. At this time, the speakers may address the Board of Directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of the Board of Directors. There is a maximum time limit of 3 minutes per speaker, and a speaker may only address the board once during this period. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allocated to the open forum. And as you can see, Maxine is up there getting a card to put her name on. And so if you have not done so and wish to speak, please do get a card and give it to Cheryl. So, Cheryl, our first speaker would be.
Our first speaker is Cash.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Cash, 201E, for the record only. Let me start by wishing everybody very happy, prosperous, and healthy New Year. On the very first day, I found a couple of things I did not like. So I came here, even though I was not feeling too good. I said, I'll come here and tell you guys about it. First, Lori mentioned about Channel 5 holding us hostage. Well, and that is a lot of money, and we do not want to spend that kind of money, but airwaves are free. And what I did is I hooked up an airwave antenna and watched the channel. As long as you do not tape it or record it or send it over the air again, it is perfectly legal. Second issue I have I have a realtor story. I looked at a property over the weekend with my clients, and I find illegal real estate practices. And I know the realtor I'm talking about knows it very well because he purchased the unit 6 months ago and turned around, slapped some paint and some other things, I don't know how much, and he has marked it up 200,000+ more than the price he bought. And that is not fair. I mean, anybody can sell anything at any price. That is not the question. But I want to make sure the work he did is not shabby work like I ended up getting. My solution to that is I'm going to ask that particular realtor, I know very well who he or she is, to bring all the receipts as well as an apology for doing this kind of shenanigans in our community within 1 week. Otherwise, as a broker myself, I will approach DRE and make sure his license will be revoked permanently. Third, I have a request. Please do not show my photo, manner, number, anything about my talking here on. Basically, I'm looking to avoid any problems in the community. Not that I cannot protect myself. I'm going to ask I'm going to request our Tim Moy to my cul-de-sac a little bit carefully in the next couple of weeks because I am stepping on some big toes. Thank you.
Next up
Thank you, Cash.
is Pat English.
Good morning and Happy New Year to all the directors and all the members and all the staff that are here. It's great to see you all. I have two issues that I would like to briefly discuss. The first one, I'm not even sure which board actually approved it, and that is the $100 charge for the ID card. I have had many members come to me and say that it was outrageous. They were very unhappy about it, and I totally agree with them. Now, if we have an issue where a member has leased a property out and the leasee has not sent their card back, or if they've lost their card, I can see charging them $100. But for everybody that turns in their ID card the normal way, they should not be paying that. In fact, it would be very questionable whether it's legal to charge unless one can support the amount of charge. That's per our attorney also. So that is one issue that I'd like to try and get some understanding of how it's supposed to be handled. The next one is the pickleball courts. And I know these pickleball courts have been creating a lot of problems here, but I would like to ask the GRF directors to please not squander our money. Now, one of our directors in our last board meeting stated that we had no right talking about GRF finances and things. Well, guess what? We have every right to talk about GRF finances because we are the members who pay the $200 or nearly $200 per month from our assessments to GRF to do what they think they should be doing. Now, as far as the old pickleball courts are concerned, we have a man who I consider, and I'm sure you would if you talk to him very much, by the name of Joe Fitzcam. This man is an expert on pickleball, paddleball, and tennis. And he's more than just an expert on the game, but he also knows all about the courts and how they should be handled. Unfortunately, he's not here today, but he will be back soon, and I hope everybody listens to him. And I would like to talk to the 27 members who are the corporate members and say, hey, you can vote against this. We don't know how much these pickleball courts will end up costing us, but we do know that Brad was talking about 1.2 million if we put them in the new location. I'm saying, let's go to the old location. Joe says he has a contractor who can do it for $15,000, $20,000, and he will guarantee it for us. So if something happened, he would replace it all. So I'm suggesting you all listen to Joe Fitzcam. And again, Happy New Year. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Chris Collins.
Good morning. Chris Collins, 3306Q. Happy New Year. Nice to see all of you here doing your job, as always. Thank you so much. Today I'm here to give an overview of work done by the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village on behalf of qualified village residents in 2017. The beginning of the new year presents a challenge for all of us, including the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village. This special time gives us an opportunity to look back, assess our actions, and resolve to do better as we go forward. For the Foundation, it gives us a chance to assess how well we are meeting the needs of village residents facing hard times. In addition to ongoing financial support, the Foundation provides a qualified residents who need such help. During the past year, the Foundation has implemented and strengthened a few new initiatives. First, we started a new effort with the Braille Institute to provide visual aids for low-income residents at no cost to them. Second, we increased the funding of AgeWell Senior Services for the weekend and holiday meal program for food-insecure residents to ensure no resident goes without a meal when the regular Meals on Wheels program is not available. Third, we continue the transportation program for village residents who needed such assistance to go to South County Outreach Food Pantry, where they can get a week's worth of food once a month. Fourth, the Foundation entered into an agreement with 24-hour home care to provide Uber transportation services to needy residents when the city taxi voucher system does not meet their needs outside Orange County. This year, the Foundation is looking at ways that it can help with disaster preparedness and what role it can play if a disaster should occur. As a result, we seek input from the village as to what we can do in this regard and if there are needs we are not currently meeting. Please contact the Foundation at thefoundation@comline.com or 949-268-2246. Thank you so much.
Okay, our next speaker is Leslie Burgon and Ed Wapa.
Okay. Good morning. Leslie Bergen, 809P. We're only here to make sure and check to see if we received a letter that we sent you. And if you haven't received the letter, we'd like to present you with a copy so that you can review, discuss, and perhaps close meeting, and then communicate to us your decision. So do you know whether you received a letter from us?
What's it about?
So regarding a variance for a third
A third.
decal.
Yeah. On a car.
Variance for what, I'm sorry?
A variance for a third decal.
So,
I don't know that we have, but I'll gladly take it.
I sent it to, the information desk a week ago. I gave it to them and at the information desk and they said they
We
give it
took
to you.
names.
But yeah, I took his name, so.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
gladly take it and look
Okay.
I
into it.
thought you might.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, our next speaker is Martin Rhodes.
Good morning. Happy New Year to you all, and may you have a healthy year ahead. I stand before you with great disappointment and feel that I must speak up on behalf of our membership in regard to what has happened the past year or so. Too many changes have come about because the new management has not taken time enough to learn and know our community. We are not a city, we are not a county, we are not a state. We are a well-blended, pluralistic, and tolerant group of more than 16,000 people who have learned to work and share for the betterment of all. We are a nonprofit community and charge fees in keeping with covering the cost of services and penalties incurred and not inflating them drastically to make a huge profit. It is obvious that this is to help cover excessive expenditures. These expenditures were for items that are part of the shared cost concept, thereby shared by all members via assessments. Secondly, we have violated over 50 years of precedents where all residents have equal rights and responsibilities, whether owner or lessee, which has worked just fine. In my group of 40, Guys of Leisure, when this all came up, it was the first time we became aware that 40% of our roster were long-term lessees, participating in all manners of activities, responsibilities, and leadership, etc. All at the same level as owner residents. Third and lastly, I have taken the spirit of our membership, you have taken the spirit of our membership and torn it apart by making our mutual respect and sharing and making us amoral and non-caring of others' traditions and celebrations, such as the decorations of the guard gate shacks. Give us back the community we once knew and loved, and return to that which brought us here for the past 52 years. I implore you to give consideration when we take up subjects. Please be sure they are truly for the benefit of all residents. Thank you, and have a good, healthy, happy New Year.
Okay, our next speaker is Maxine McIntosh.
Good morning. It was wonderful to see Pat English up here, walk up here so comfortably After a year of pain, congratulations, Pat. We're so glad to have you back in better health. She's served the community for quite some time now. Also, I'd like to comment on Lori Moss's report about customer service. In 24 years, I've never seen customer service as good as it is now, whether it's the way people are treated here in the building or whether it's by telephone and computer. It is greatly improved, and we all benefit from that. Let's see. Whoops, sorry, lost my note here. Okay, I just again want to implore this committee, this board, to encourage the committees also to be very careful about spending. And as Marty Rhodes just said, the money comes from the mutuals, and for a lot of people, my estimate, because we don't have a survey, so I've just done the best job I could, is we probably have 3 to 5,000 people in the community budgeting very carefully to be sure they can afford to live here the rest of their lives. And that's what most of us want to do, live here the rest of our lives. The Performing Arts Center, someone said at the last meeting that we'd been told a long time ago that they were going to take it apart and not have it be a clubhouse anymore, but the whole building a Performing Arts Center. That is not true. Right here in this room earlier this year, Brad did tell us that the name was being changed in order to attract better quality performance. And that sounded fine. Okay, go ahead. We were never told at that time that the long-range plan could very well be to destroy the clubhouse. It would become a performing arts center only. So I just want to clear that up. We heard that more recently, not earlier this year. When it comes to pickleball and the Performing Arts Center and anything else, we need to just remember that we can plan ahead, but like with pickleball, not 5, 10 years ahead, that it might have a greater need based on what's going on today. People still fall and get hurt as much in pickleball, probably as they do in tennis. I'm not sure it would grow that much. It doesn't seem to have grown much in the last 5 years, 6 years, 5 years, since Don Tibbetts and Ken Hammer and I went over for several weeks and looked at pickleball, the condition of the court at that time, which wasn't good, and what hours people were playing, which were pretty limited each day. They kind of all want to play at the same time. Happy New Year, and thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker is Juanita Skillman.
Good morning and Happy New Year. I would like to, first of all, on 13B, I totally support the raising of the fees for the traffic violations, but I would like to bring to your attention that while, yes, that serves the whole community, there are other things that do as well that have been kind of passed off to the mutuals, and I think are a GRF responsibility. And that is the fees for the resident cards, the decals, and the RFIDs. Those are all GRF oversight, and the fees should be standard for the whole community instead of different ones for different mutuals. I have to disagree just a little bit with Pat. In United, we have not raised ours. It is still $25. And I can't speak for the other mutuals, but sometimes when you hear about one mutual, you think it's the whole community, and it's not. But I think that these should be for the whole community and should be set by GRF. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Marvin Rawtick.
Thank you. What I want to talk about is an issue that has been on everybody's mind for quite some time. Number one, the issue of the cost of the ID cards. I'd just like to point out that we look at lessees and owners as equals. They are most certainly not. The owner has an investment, they have responsibilities and personal and legal liability as owners, where the lessees do not. The lessees do not see this community the same way that the owner residents do. And that's why a great number, large percentage of the issues and problems that arise in the village are from the lessees. That's common knowledge. Now, the idea of equality has its limits. One of the big problems with some of the lessees, they lose their cards, sort of, buy another one for really cheap, and they suddenly have two cards, which, for a time at least, before it's discovered, they have additional access to the community, which I think is not a good idea. I believe that the cost of a card for lessees should probably be closer to $100 or $500 as a deposit. And until they return that same card, they don't get their deposit back, because that's a scam that's been going on for some time here. And I would also say that we have to be more careful how we distinguish between the responsibilities, duties, and obligations of lessees and residents. And remember, we are not equals, legally or otherwise. Thank you.
And our last speaker is Andre Torg.
Good morning, Andre Torn, 389Q. First, Happy New Year, and hope you all have a Merry Christmas. And we look forward to seeing all these board members contributing to our community and help us live here the best way we can. And I also want to thank Lori Moss' report of helping us out understanding the department progress and making us the safe community and the best community we have. Okay. A few issues. First, about the expense, Maxine's talk about expense, watching expense in the third Clubhouse 3. We, from what I understand, in the beginning, it was just talk about it's just a name change, just a name change. And then it started mushroom into all these, since we have a performing arts center, we need to make it great. We have to understand that this is a gated community. We don't bring outsiders in. The community really need that big performing arts center. How do we satisfy the needs? How do we spend our assessment wisely, whether it's being in the infrastructure or in the performing facilities, make it better? I think it's clear that we need to focus on the infrastructures first. So I'm asking that people start focusing on the infrastructures rather than facilities. It's great that we have better facilities, but it's not necessary. Wait until we finish our infrastructures, make it great, and the pricing of the house market going up because we have a better price in this facility. We have a better infrastructure in our community. Second one is we talk about the Granicus. Granicus has this great capability to allow residents to enter comments in the so whatever you talk about users, residents can log in and sign up and provide information, feedback to them. Hopefully we'll have that kind of capability built up and allow residents rather than go online. We know we all don't like the good neighbor this website neighbor stuff, but we next door neighbor. So we hope that we can have a Granicus is a formal channel for everybody to enter the information and comment on that. Next one is a CRM functionality. I want to know, I heard, seems like we've started to collect user requirements. Are we going to collect information about Granicus from, the CRMs from board members, from the residents? I hope board members and the residents, particular residents, will be involved in helping shape this CRM as the best customer relationship for the residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It is time now for responses to the member comments. And I have some names down of folks that I would like to have them respond. That Tom's procedure is to have individual people respond that are acquainted, most acquainted with the question. I, however, like to go around the board and have you give your input that you would wish to give on these, and then if I have people that have not responded, some of our board members, I'll ask them to please speak up. And so I'm going to start over there with Dick because his hand is up.
I have a question for Lori. I got a lot of phone calls on Channel 5, and it was kind of news to me, but I found the channel to watch the Rose Bowl game. But I was wondering, how many people watch Channel 5? Do you know?
I don't see Chuck down here. I don't think we have a way of knowing that number. Let me text him and see if I can get an answer for you, but I don't think we have a way of knowing that.
Okay, thank you.
Dick, is that it? Would you like to respond further to any of the speakers?
Well, I am in agreement with people concerned about the costs of different projects, so that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Annette.
Okay, from a security perspective concerning the fees, basically this would go to a few people. I think it would be Pat English. I think it would go to Juanita about the resident cards, the replacement. Our resident replacement card is a $25 fee. The third had yanked it up to $100, and I believe they're backing off of that. So that should be fine. It should be $25 for the replacement card. That's what it is for GRF. And I believe Resident Services was told to start implementing that immediately at our last meeting. Anybody here that thinks it was otherwise and needs to correct me? We're good? Okay, thank you. Thanks, Judith. The other thing that we talked about, watching the expenses, we're trying to do that. The presidents and the vice presidents are all meeting and in order to talk about things, and I think that will help, so we won't have as much backtracking. There'll be more unifying. Security will be looking at RFIDs, decals, and everything else over time. We are actually working on some of that right now. And that's about it. Thank you. Happy New Year.
Joanne?
Yeah, hi. I received some text messages from members of the third board, and this is specifically for Marvin. There was apparently some misunderstanding with the people who collect the certain fees. And third is actively working with GRF to see that the people who were incorrectly charged are being reimbursed. I don't know, that's the chairman's responsibility. Beth, do you want a conversation?
I didn't make myself entirely clear about that.
All right, go ahead.
The question of a very high fee would be in regard to lessees. This is a completely separate issue from residents. Residents can pay a very modest fee of the cost of issuing that card because it's permanent. The temporary ones, I believe, should be charged a very high fee to make sure they come back. That's all.
I think that the third board was just interested to let the community know that whatever incorrect collection was made by the part from any resident, it's going to be reimbursed, and GRF is working with third and finance.
The only thing, excuse me, I have to say is regarding the traffic situation. In the past, we've had so many people with no fines for this, no fines for this, no fines for that. They constantly come back and do the same thing time and time and time again. So Chief Moy is working on that and has asked the committee to come forth with this. And, you know, it's constant. And for instance, just really kind of funny in a sense, one lady was really upset and she cussed a little bit about why would you dare give us a ticket or give me a fine for parking on the sidewalk and when the cars go by me at 55 miles an hour and so forth and so on, I'm afraid my car's going to get hit. And I said, well, what happens because you're parked on the sidewalk and your neighbor your son or daughter, whatever, is in a wheelchair and goes out and gets hit by that 55-mile, oh my God, I never thought of that. Thank you. I'll shut up. See, these are the things, we're trying to do things the right way. We're not trying to make money. That's not the idea. We're trying to enforce the safety of the community, all of you. That's why we do what we do. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, I would just want to reiterate that, right, our card, our replacement card fee was, and remains $25, that we did not raise it. GRF did not. And regarding the pickleball courts, I know and like Joe Fitzcam, but I think we should listen to staff. I don't think that we have Joe Fitzcam make our decisions, but he certainly can weigh in and has weighed in. For cash, I'm not sure what you mean by giving out your address. I think the only time your address is given out is when you give a member's comment and you give out your address. So I'm just not sure when otherwise their addresses are given out. Let's see. Oh, and in terms of pickleball, I don't know what you're saying about there being no growth in pickleball, and I don't know where the statistics are for people falling more or less at tennis. My guess would be they'd fall more at pickleball for various reasons, including the fact that there are cracks on the court. But again, that's just a guess on my part. I don't have any statistics for it. And we are actively watching the money that we have, and we are not overspending. Thank you.
I was going to respond to Lisa Bender, I think she left, about the center line measuring. You know, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. Well, when they're measuring a road that curves and bends, and they're measuring along the center of the road, which is considerably longer than 2 points. And then several people in the past repeatedly bring up GRF spending on facilities versus foundations for the mutuals and infrastructure. Well, the two different pocketbooks, even though GRF gets its funds indirectly from the mutuals, and I think maybe you're asking for us to not charge the mutuals as much, like right now it's like $198 of your assessment a month, but it's really two separate pocketbooks. And so that's really a mutual issue, Andre. You might want to go talk to them.
Jim Juhan. A couple of people were talking about the pickleballs, and we have brought to the community additional sports. And I look at it, and everybody is worried about it and don't think we need it here. However, I look at it as we shouldn't be getting older so often, and it might not be something that we might do. I'm 76 years old, and I play paddle tennis. But, you know, I don't blame it on what a lot of people getting roused up. I would say, why don't you come and join me? And maybe they'd have a capacity, but I just think we're getting too old.
Did you want to make a response? I just wanted to make sure that we know that we're having meetings, presidents' meetings, and the presidents and vice presidents of all of the boards are meeting to try to make sure that we are all on this same wavelength and what we're talking about. And yes, one of the things that we are talking about at this point is pickleball. And there will be a meeting January 31st, Juanita, or 30th, which is the 30th. And that meeting is a meeting of the corporate members, and one of the topics of discussion at that time will be pickleball. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that the treasurers are all getting together starting this month as well.
Which is good. And just to be clear, Joanne said that she'd had texts from third board members. So yes, that had been a discussion, the $100 fee, but that has been changed back to $25. So we need to make that really clear that that was a proposition that had been looked at by the third board, only the third board, and they have said, no, we're going to change back to the $25. And there were some good reasons for having looked at it and said, we may need to raise it. However, they did put it back to the $25, just to make that extremely clear. I know that's something that I've heard about so much, people have asked about, so I want to make sure that everyone understands that. So thank you very much. Oh, one more comment. Yes, Annette.
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this before when they talked about customer service and the response time. On New Year's Day, I needed a plumber for our kitchen sink, and I'd been kind of waiting because I thought, okay, I'll wait the next day, but I couldn't any longer. And it happened to be an outside issue because it was the second story and my unit, which is the bottom unit. Anyway, they came within about a half hour, and they were our people, and they resolved the whole thing, and they were wonderful. And I've been here 12 years. That wouldn't have happened years ago. So I was just thrilled. The response time was incredible.
Thank you. I did have one more thing I wanted to say in response to Juanita. Juanita mentioned that the fees need to be standardized, and one of the things that Tom Circle says on a consistent basis is we need to stay in our own lane. And I think what that means is we need to be focusing on exactly what is our responsibility. And really, fees for traffic fees, et cetera, should be the responsibility of GRF. So we and the President's Council hopefully will look at that and in an overall manner and say, who should be responsible for which fees so that we can get that clear and not have one mutual charging something for one particular event and another charging more. And Richard has his hands up.
I'd just like to comment about the gentleman that mentioned charging lessees a higher rate for the cards. I'd like to hear from security to see what kind of a problem it really is. Because he mentioned that it can be a real problem, I think we should look into that.
I need a little bit of clarity here, Dick. So the question was charging lessees more for an ID card than you would. Okay, so Annette has an answer. She's on.
Okay, security. I'm as chair of security, I can put that on as new business. Microphone. Our committee meeting.
Thank you.
So we will be addressing that in security. And we are now moving to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent calendar. And consent calendar, do I have a motion to approve? Jim, second for that? Diane, all in favor? Thank you, thank you. So now we're on to unfinished business. 12A, entertain a motion to adopt a resolution for golf greens fees for 2018, and that notification 30-day has been satisfied. So if these all have been satisfied, A through D, can we just have a motion and accept them, or do I have to go through each individual one, or what do we do?
I can tell you that in the past, Joan indicated we needed to read them so they became part of the record. I'm going to defer to Judith.
It is required. I know it's 30 days, but there's different audience every month. So,
Otherwise, we'd have put them on consent.
Oh, okay. Right.
Okay, so that means that Joanne will be reading each of these resolutions A through D.
Okay, so.
And the first one is A that I just
This
read what
is-
it was.
Item 12A, entertain a motion to approve golf green fees, and I'm zipping through my little folder. Okay, this is item 12A, golf fees pricing policy. Whereas according to Resolution 9012132, which established guidelines for shared costs and fees, certain fees can be imposed upon users of various recreational facilities in order to control crowding and minimize overusage and to recover operating costs. And whereas the Board of Directors may periodically review the fees and make adjustments for reasons defined in the shared cost guidelines, now therefore be it resolved January 2nd, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the following policy for golf fees, and amounts set forth on the attached schedule of golf fees. Cart fees. A cart rental fee shall be charged to residents and their guests who wish to use a GRF-owned golf cart or pull cart. A cart registration fee shall be charged for the use of a golf cart not owned by GRF. Club rental fees. A club rental fee shall be charged to residents and their guests who wish to use a GRF-owned set of golf clubs. Driving range fees. A bucket fee shall be charged to residents and their guests for hitting a bucket of balls on the driving range. Green fees, 27-hole course. Green fees shall be charged to residents and their guests per round of golf. Green fee amount shall be set according to the attached schedule for residents and guests. Green fees, 9-hole course. Green fees shall be charged to residents and their guests per round of golf. Green fee amount shall be set according to the schedule for residents and guests. Resolve further that Resolution 90-1310, adopted February 5th, 2013, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. And I'll move this. And Judith also move, and Diana seconding.
I'll second.
I don't know, we don't have to read the schedule.
You don't have to read the attachment because it
Okay,
states
thank you.
attached.
All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Joanna.
Diana, Judith, could you read? I'm not doing a good job.
Okay, we're going to 12B.
12B.
Members first, Resolution 90-17. Whereas a primary purpose of GRF is to provide, maintain, and manage operations for members. Whereas certain GRF amenities have limited occupancy and use. Whereas non-member occupants often utilize these limited amenities to the exclusion of members. And therefore be it resolved January 2nd, 2018, that RV lots and spaces, the equestrian facilities stalls, and garden center plots, and other limited amenities such as individual member equipment lockers at Clubhouse 4 and the Village Greens shall first be offered to members prior to any other category of resident when space is available. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. 30-day notification has been satisfied. I so move.
All those in
Wait,
favor?
I have a comment.
Oh, comment.
At the November meeting, when we discussed this, we took out the words "other limited amenities such as." That shouldn't be in here. If you go back and look at the notes from the November 7 meeting, I think it was Joe Milliman so we took those out because it's not such as. That makes it clear to everyone that these are the 4 amenities or the 4 categories of amenities that we're applying this to.
So can that be a Scrivener?
So that shouldn't have been, yeah.
Just cross it out.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, okay. So plots, comma,
Plots.
yeah.
Plots
then-
and individual member equipment lockers.
Yes, okay.
So Judith, we
Just call it a
we
Scrivener.
could just cross that out and it's
'cause-
okay.
Yeah.
All
it's-
right.
Deleting is different than changing.
So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Okay. You know what? Am I out of line? Marty had his hand up, so Lori, help me on this, or Judith, should I have, before I call the vote?
Yeah, you can ask for discussion.
Yeah, I should have done that.
Yeah,
Okay.
you should have done it, but
You're working with a rookie here, I'm sorry. Okay, Marty, come on up.
It's not a long comment, but it's something that I mentioned in my first remarks, and that is that membership and residence are two completely different things, and now you're creating a membership versus residence situation. And so many of our lessees have been residents for so long and waiting for the one or the other of these amenities that I just feel that at this time, it's just unfair. I know what you've established, two levels of membership, and that I feel is where we are running into this confrontation. But I know you have the right to do what you're doing, but I just feel that someone who's waited 5 years for a garden plot shouldn't be passed over for some new so-called, what you call, member versus non-member. Now we'll step in front of someone who's waited many years. I know that you have the right to do so. I just feel that it's something, again, what we've had for all these years. Now we're going to change it, and that's all I have to say on the part of non-member and member.
My feeling is that our community pays for everything, and we have a tremendous amount of people from the outside that utilize our facilities time and time and time again. That's why we tried to make a separation. And we're not going to argue. We're not going to argue. I'm just making a statement, and that's my feeling, okay?
Uh, 389Q, Andre Torn. Does this grandfather in previous renters already using facilities?
they would be eliminated by
It's a
So they
waiting.
will not be
attrition.
co- they
Through
will-
attrition, yeah.
So this doesn't apply to this applies to everyone or currently owning any facilities.
Well, nobody owns a facility, but the people
Right,
that
use the
currently, this is
facility.
only for, regarding the wait lists. So if
Right.
you already have a garden plot, then you already have it, nobody's taking it away. If there's an RV space you have, then that's not being taken away, it's just the
Okay.
wait list.
Okay, so it's grandfathered in, so
Right, yes.
renters already in this RV space or garden plot will be allowed to continue their usage.
right.
Okay, just clarify. Thank you.
Just a little further clarification on what Andre said. This will only begin with people signing new lease agreements, new rental papers. Is that right? It won't go back, because there's some people on waiting lists who think they're going to be kept on that list till they get a spot. And I hope they're not going to be told because they rent, they have to go to the bottom of the list. So if we could make sure that this begins, I think maybe you had that in mind, and it just isn't worded here. If this could begin with people signing new lease agreements, new rental agreements.
No, I don't believe it is. I think it's effective now. There's a second list. One is for, the new one is for members, so that there's a list for members, and as long as there are people on the list waiting that are members, then they will not go to the other list that is the existing list.
You know, again, the people leasing and renting, and I don't have a rental, but I'm thinking of friends who do in Third. They're just taking the place of the member. There's either a member or a leasee or renter in that manner. And they're not creating an extra demand. They're just using the same, experiencing the same demand for services or experiences that the members do. They take the place. You don't have a member and a renter in the same manner. So they're just taking the place of who would be living there as a member, whatever the label is. It's the same number of people.
Okay, so where we are is we are calling the vote on 12B. All those in favor?
Okay, yeah, we
Oh,
already
12B,
voted.
are we on C?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
And just to clarify, the rule would be, you'd ask all the directors if anything said would change their vote. If no one's going to change their vote, then the vote stands.
Oh, okay.
And you don't have to vote
So,
again. So, does anyone have any, is anyone going to change their vote by the discussion?
then the vote stands. Thank you. Judith is my expert on Robert's
You don't
rules.
know
She's
about that.
keeping me in line. Okay, so now we are on 12D.
C.
C. I'm way off.
Okay. Resolution 9017, Recreation Policy and Operating Rules. Whereas the board has set policies and operating rules for usage of GRF facilities. Whereas the Recreation and Special Events Department oversees the use of facilities. Whereas the department is reasonable for booking room reservations, or responsible for booking room reservations, selling tickets, conducting classes, set up and take down of rental rooms, ensure that safety and compliance procedures are followed, protect the facilities, and enforce policy and operating procedures. And whereas the amendments improve the understandability of the policies and procedures, the facilities implementation by staff. Now therefore be it resolved that January 2nd, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts amended policies and operating rules. Resolved further, new operating rules are included for the archery room, card game room, performing arts center, drop-in lounge, lockers, bar services, and clubhouses. Resolve further that a 50-50 exception rate policy is added for coordinating events hosted by residents at main lounges when 50% of non-residents are in attendance. Resolve further, flyers are not permitted to be distributed for reservations made by individuals. Resolve further, reservations for weddings, birthdays, anniversaries for immediate family members pay the resident rate, and reservations for others pay the exception rate. Resolve further, lottery cards for clubs and individuals have been reduced from 6 cards to 4 cards per year. Resolve further that this resolution supersedes and cancels Resolution 90-16-56, and resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. The 30-day notification has been satisfied. I so move.
I second.
Any comments?
Marty has a comment.
Just a question that I didn't catch while you were reading it.
Okay.
And true, I haven't read it all. I'm only asking, Judy, are you referring to clubs that meet once a month? Are they still on the rollover? Or are they having to be limited to only 4 applications? I'm just asking a clarification. I don't
Okay, I have to
understand.
go back through this. You have all of the rules inside.
Well, I haven't had time to read
Yeah.
it this morning.
It got changed from
Page
6
96.
to 4.
Okay, from 6 to 4.
Yeah.
That's what that means.
So
Okay.
therefore,
It has
a
nothing to do
social
with
club that
monthly.
meets every month,
That has nothing to do with monthly. It got changed from,
that's a rollover.
right, from 6 to 4.
Okay, that's all I wanted to be sure
Right.
they were.
Thank you for clarifying that. Okay.
Maxine McIntosh, 68C. 96 pages. Boy, it took a long time to get through this. To me, this is way overkill. For a community, this looks like something maybe for a city of 150,000 to up to 1 million residents. This is really overkill. Where is all this going to be posted? There are little errors throughout, and I cannot see the changes that were made. It looks like maybe no attention, I don't know, but this suggests no attention was paid to our previous rules, that it just, staff is just told to start over and maybe look at what cities do and go ahead. This does not sound like a residential community. I point out on page, these are little things, for instance, page 12C, or page 85 of 12C. Page 85, hot pool. The recommended time limit in a hot pool is 5 minutes. No, it's not. It's 10 minutes. It takes you 5 minutes to get all the way in.
That's just recommended. That doesn't mean.
Oh, don't keep it. That's just, you'll get too many complaints. Make it recommended 10. And then over on page 87, page 87 of 96, under H, swimming. Listen to this. Now, people are swimming laps, they're relaxing, some are trying to go faster, okay? Pushing off the wall. When you leave the wall to start swimming, be sure you give the swimmer ahead of you adequate space. Do we need that in a written rule? Look at number 2, choice of swimming stroke. It tells you if you switch strokes and it makes you go slower and you get caught from behind, it may have been better etiquette for you to make that switch after the other swimmer passes you. We don't need that in writing. My goodness. And number 3, turning. Read that one. How you turn makes no difference. If it makes a difference to the other swimmer, and in your lane, as long as you stay on your side of the lane. If you circle swimming, then you should aim for the left side of the lane. My gosh. We don't need to put in a rule how to use the lane for swimming. This is way overkill. Please be careful before you accept 96 pages like this. I know a lot of hard work went into it, but this is overkill. Thank you.
I'm going to let Lori go first on this one.
So most of these haven't changed. Most of these were all existing. I'm not for sure about the pool one, but I'm pretty sure that it was already existing. I can get that answer to you, though,
Oh,
Maxine.
gosh. I'd like to see the old one.
Yeah, very little was changed. What happened is we took the building and the club rules and just put them into the policy instead of having part in the policy and part in a separate place. We're just combining them.
I wonder how many complaints you've gotten about somebody turning at the wrong time in their own lane.
More than you know.
Quite a few.
So just before I call on somebody else, I just need to say this one thing to clarify 96 pages, okay? So what staff did was look at our policies and they separated operational procedures. And the operational procedures in here are for each clubhouse. Clubhouses are different. So that each of the clubhouses' operational procedures are in this 96 pages. And policy comes before that, and it is certainly not 96 pages, it's maybe 5 or 6. Okay, so that, which is, as Lori said, we looked at it, we looked at what we had, and very little changes were made, very little changes. And of course, we discussed this at CAC several different times and brought it back to you with changes in red and highlighted so you would see, so that we could have that clarity. And our hand was up over here, and it's Annette.
I read every word of this, and there were a few errors that were sent on to Cheryl for correction in order that we didn't get stuck in the mundane this morning. And as far as the swimming, the last time I was in the pool was 3 weeks ago. I'm an avid person that likes this. I read this. This totally made sense to me because if you're in the pool and it's very busy, and there are certain people that jump in even when you're swimming your laps and don't know anything about pool etiquette. This, especially when we get very busy, is very, very helpful. Thank you.
I know in the past years, a lot of this input came from the lifeguards who observe the individuals at the pool, and you'd be surprised more often than not how many people don't have the pool etiquette and cause problems and complaints and fights and arguments at the pool. So over the years, all of this has been collected, and it really is necessary. It is hard to believe in a community of seniors, but there is more problems, especially 1 and 2, I believe, the 2 pools with the biggest problems. Thank you.
I do find, in terms of that clarification, a lot of times this happens when we have at pool too. We have our grandkids in and we have other younger people in that aren't familiar with the pool etiquette, and their older people are swimming, and we're all trying to live together very harmoniously. So it helps for clarification.
389Q, Andre Torn. On page 90 of 96 of the recreation rule is table tennis. And on the rule B, guests must be a minimum of 6 years of age. I think it's missing 2 words, to play. Okay, we can have grandchildren here, 1-year-old, 2-year-old, having fun with grandparents, just visiting that place. They don't have to play, but I think it should be allowed for them to come in and just with grandparents. But they are limited to play. They cannot play if they are under 6-year-old, which I agree with that. Okay, so that's what I just recommend, because when you're saying, we want, you're not 6-year-old, you're not allowed to come in. That's a little bit too restricted. Thank you very much.
I believe that they do that from an insurance perspective and a liability issue. And I know that children under certain ages can't do golf, and they can't come into different areas. They can't go into the sewing room, even though they're very capable to be there, but it's just from insurance purposes.
May I ask a question again? Okay.
No, all those in favor of the motion, please. Unanimous, thank you. Now we definitely are on 12D.
Resolution 9017, Construction Contractor Work Pass Policy. Whereas staff has experienced several issues with manner alterations, including illegal dumping in village dumpsters, excessive noise, and smoking by contractors, parking in resident spaces by contractors, damage to mutual property during construction, and working after hours. Whereas Third Laguna Hills Mutual and United Laguna Woods Mutual both support requiring contractors to obtain a gate access permit to perform work in the village when implemented. Whereas the Third Laguna Hills Mutual and United Laguna Woods Mutual approve a program for the collection of a refundable conformance deposit for standard mutual consent and variance requests. Now therefore be it resolved on January 2nd, 2018, that the Board of the Directors of this corporation adopts a construction contractor work pass policy and forms as attached to the official minutes of this meeting, and resolve further that the fees be included in the monetary fee schedule. Resolve further that the officers and agents of the corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. The 30-day notification to comply with Civil Code 4360 has been satisfied, so I so move in favor of this motion.
Yeah, my name is Mark Gatlin, 693C. I would like to add one more requirement, that all contractor vehicles have signage on their vehicles that they use to come in. So if there is a complaint, you need to find out who it is. It's a lot easier to identify them than trying to find out if they have their pass or not. That's the general contractor and all his subcontractors. Signage on their vehicles. Thank you.
That's part of the program. It does not. It has to be, when you come in, you have to pay the $15 fee as well. The chief will address this.
Good morning, GRF Board. Tim Loy, Chief of Security. One of the things we looked at is with this pass and working with the contractors is making sure it's reasonable as well. Is it reasonable to have every contractor to put a logo on every vehicle that comes in, and working with our partners who do service this community? It was our determination that's not reasonable. So what we looked at was an alternative plan, and that's to require passes to be placed on the dash. Now, that conformance fee that we are implementing, if we find those violations, and when we're out responding to those types of calls, and we have a contractor or one of their workers, various workers, parked in a guest spot, we're able to hold them accountable for that. So we're looking for the middle ground on this one, and we think we have identified that. Again, just looking at the reasonableness of expecting every vehicle, every contractor, and their crews to put a logo on, we did not agree with.
But Chief, with our new technology, if somebody gives us the license plate number, we can check it that way as well, right?
Sure. So so we have some layers of protection, built in, especially when we get all of our gate arms up over the next year or so. But in the meantime, when these folks are coming in with their passes, we'll be able to screen them, and it'll show that they're in the community, and it gives us a head start as to who the contractor is. And working with our team as well with the various amount of contractors in here, there's been a little bit of a gap in the past where when we go out, we just don't know who's out there, where they're working. This is going to give us that opportunity to go out and enforce the violations when we see them.
I do have a question on the passes, and I'm sorry, it's my own ignorance, basically. Do these have an expiration date on them, or do the passes just expire in 6 months when the over $500 improvement is supposed to be done?
Right. I believe they'll have a 6-month.
Okay. Thank you.
Date on them.
Any other questions?
I have a question that's not related to this, but I didn't realize Chief Moy was here. It's about the renter's cards. There's a story about when people lose their card, they're renters and they lose their card, but do you have any information on where they pass them out to other people?
I don't have the numbers. I can try to find the numbers. I know we'll work on that with the SCAC committee, and I'll work with resident services. But each card comes with that barcode, and we can deactivate that as well. So that's obviously a added benefit of our technology here, so we can turn that card off. That doesn't say that the person won't try to wave it as they're driving through, which we know that they do, or a credit card for that matter. Whatever the ID might be, but right, we'll look deeper into that.
Okay, thank you.
And relating to the contractor work pass policy, this is $250 that has to be given for the contractor that goes ahead to get this permit, correct? And each additional vehicle is like $15 if there's other ones. Now, the one that pays the $250 up front, does he have to have signage on his vehicle?
No.
Okay. But basically, if he wants to collect the $250 back at the end of him doing the improvement, he basically has to comply with all of our rules and regs and everything else, correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Now time to vote.
Yes.
Yep. Thanks. All those in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Thank you. New business. New business. 13A, introduce a resolution to approve a digital pay tier system with whole home DVR, and this is the January initial notification. It must postpone for the 30-day notification to comply with Civil Code 4360. Do I have a motion?
Well, I'll just read, I only have to read the changes which are
Okay.
highlighted. So I won't have to read the entire thing. Yeah, Resolution 9018, Digital Cable Services Fee Structure and Tier System, whereas the Golden Ring Foundation currently offers a digital pay system that includes 3 rental choices for set boxes, whereas the new services promise to expand recording and viewing capabilities with whole home DVR equipment, whereas the new service will include features such as interactive guide pausing, searching, rewinding, and storing of content, as well as a suite of over-the-top applications such as Hulu, Netflix, or YouTube TV services. And whereas the new rental choice will include TV Anywhere services that will allow content streaming to any device in the home, such as a tablet or smartphone. Now therefore be it resolved on February 6, 2018, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby approves the proposed revisions to the digital pay tier system as attached to the official minutes of this meeting. Under installation service, whole home DVR, a one-time fee of $100. Under equipment monthly fee, the whole home DVR will be $24.95 for the first box and $7.25 for every additional box in the manor. Resolved further, Resolution 9016-46, adopted October 4th, 2016, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out this resolution. This is the initial notification and will be postponed to comply with Civil Code 4360 for 30 days. I move in favor of this resolution.
Okay, discussion. Ray?
I have a question. Lori, I have one silly question. I have a 52-inch TV right now that physically has Netflix, Hulu, and something else on it, but I also pay Netflix $10 a month. So if I bought this new system, the first box, I'm paying it twice. I'm just asking.
No.
What happens then, because this says it's included for Netflix, so would I remove the $10?
Actually,
No,
I can address that word.
it's not for the membership to Netflix.
Right, that's exactly it.
This is for people who don't already have a Hulu stick or a Flick stick or, whatever they call them. Yeah, one of those. So the device is built in then to this box instead of having to buy one and stick it on your TV.
Okay.
You still have to pay for subscription, and it does say that in here in the.
It does? I didn't see that.
Oh, up in the staff report, sorry, in the staff report, it does explain that. It does not include the subscription.
Director Gross, Ray just responded and said you will not have to pay extra for Netflix. What happens is you just go on and sign in with your credentials.
With your current one.
In the new system.
So then I would eliminate paying my $10 a month that I'm paying now. Is that the idea? That's what I'm asking.
No.
You still have to pay, but you can log in and have
okay.
Netflix on your
All
TV.
right.
And you'd be able to
Thank
watch,
you.
and you'd be able to watch it on every TV that's hooked into this system.
I have it now.
On every TV?
Every TV.
Okay.
I've got 4 of them in my house, and yes.
Okay, Dick.
In case you needed clarification, Dick Rader, 270D. In case you needed clarification, what it means is that if you do not have the icons, like Netflix has an icon that you click on, the new service will allow you to have the icon. If you didn't have it, that's all it does. You still have to pay.
So there's-
And just, again, a question. It says whole home DVR, one-time fee. Now you're talking about multiple boxes in the same house? Then it's not whole house.
It's
Can you just clarify. I'm cloudy.
It'll be a different box.
So it's a new system so that you buy what I think of as a master box, and then you can buy boxes for the different TVs in your home. And so just like now, if I have 3 TVs and I have 3 boxes, they can't talk to each other. But this will be one master box that talks to the.
And the fee for the additional box? is
$7.25.
Per month?
Right.
Per month?
Yeah,
Right.
renting.
But the whole home box is a one-time fee
Of
of
$100.
$100?
No, it's $24.99. You'd use that box instead of your current box. The $100 is because they have to come out and they have to do some programming
So
with it.
basically, it's an installation,
Right.
et cetera. box.
Yep, that's what the 100 is.
Plus 24 something,
95.
plus 725 for each additional.
Right.
Is that correct?
So,
Okay.
so I think the math works out that if you currently have two boxes, and they are the DVR boxes, then then one whole home box plus the 725, it's about the same price. And so if you're somebody that currently has 3 or 4 boxes, and some people do, then this is actually cheaper for them.
Thank you.
So the appropriate term is client box.
Okay, sorry.
And then Director Gross.
Still cheaper.
Pardon me?
Director Gross, so what Ray is saying is, yes, you still pay Netflix, but only once a month, and you can sign in on any device without an additional charge. So you can watch it on all the TVs with the extra client boxes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion, and it's seconded. Those in favor? It's unanimous, thank you. 13B,
Resolution 90-18, Schedule of Traffic Monetary Penalties. Whereas the Golden Rain Foundation, through the Security Department, enforces traffic rules and regulations within the boundaries of Laguna Woods Village, and the officers are empowered to issue notices of violation of those rules and regulations. And whereas the Security and Community Access Committee has recommended amendments to the Schedule of Traffic Monetary Penalties. Now therefore be it resolved on February 6, 2018, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby approves the proposed revisions to the Schedule of Traffic Monetary Penalties as attached to the official minutes of this meeting. Resolve further, Resolution 90-14-73, adopted on December 2, 2014, is hereby superseded and canceled. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of this corporation to carry out this resolution. This is the initial January notification and will be postponed for 30 days. I so move this resolution.
okay, discussion by the board. Diane?
I just had a comment that the schedule on page 2 of 3, 13B, that I thought that we were going to fill in the 3rd and 4th blocks so that none of them were left empty.
They are.
Okay.
Okay. Jim, your hand was up?
proposed on that side.
Yes.
I apologize.
Jim? Oh, I thought your hand was up. No? Anybody else? Okay. Maxine?
Thank you. On page 2 of 3, where you give the current fines and the proposed fines, I'm so happy to see that you reduced the 3 at the bottom for people. Let's see, all of that is in the RV lots. I think that was a very wise thing to do and a kind thing to do. As going from no fine to $25 for a lot of these, I'm thinking, if someone gets stopped speeding or running a stop sign, you're immediately dealing with the officer, and you know what you've done, and it's current and so forth. Some of these other things, limited time parking, no parking zone, RV over 6 hours, and so forth, no officer is present on that unless you happen to come to your vehicle while he's writing the citation. That's why I like no fine the first time. And you know me, if I park, because I try to be careful about that, but if I park both wheels on the sidewalk, which is easy to do in a lot of our cul-de-sacs, where we have a sidewalk level with the blacktop, if I parked both tires well over onto the sidewalk and got a citation, and then was told that if I did it a second time, there would be a fine, there'd never be a second time, because that gets my attention. I think you do get the people's attention when you notify them what they did, and that a fine would be imminent. They repeated that situation. They repeated that breaking of a rule. So that's why I would like to see you leave the no fine the no fine sections at no fine, and then implement the rest as you go. Otherwise, I think it's very responsible. But people who get, a no fine is like a formal warning. Most people are ashamed of that, and they're sorry, and they're not likely to do it again, unless you've been given, and then it should be in here, a chart showing how many people are repeat offenders on these. If you have several hundred people out of a village this size who are repeat offenders on these no fine areas within 3 years, that's different, but I don't see any study like that. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine. Annette was first,
Yep.
and then I see a couple of hands here.
You know, I really, my thinking is exactly like yours, Maxine, except for the fact that I've been in situations and I've had people ask me, is this your first time? And I say yes, and they say, oh, don't worry about it because there is no fine. So you can, they'll just, they come by, they give you a ticket, whatever, there'll be no fine attached. I can see the making everything $25 the way it's proposed right now makes it easier on our security guards. Number one, they know what the fines are, and everybody else in the village will it's the first and first, well, some of these it's even for the second time. But by taking away the no fine, we have a little bit more teeth and a little bit more of some of the folks in this village that respect, because some of the people here do not respect the fact that it is no fine, even though I would agree with you as far as my thinking goes. And I was very surprised to encounter this, but I do agree with the proposal now.
Thank you. Judith?
This is a question for Ray or Chief Moore, where it says pedestrian violations. Does that include jaywalking? Because if it does, we have some very long blocks that don't have crosswalks in between where they're really needed, because if someone has to catch a bus across the street and they're disabled, it takes a long time with their walker. They need a crosswalk if they can't jaywalk, or they can't get quarter mile down to the next block where there is a crosswalk.
Right, good morning again. It's definitely cold and flu season. So the primary objective of traffic enforcement is to maintain a safe community. I think we all know that. And of course, in order to gain compliance, you've got to have fines associated with them, but within reason. And I think everything is within reason here. So when we have a violation, you want to have a fine associated with it, not with a warning, not with a no fine, because you want to be able to enforce some of the egregious violations. But when we're talking about jaywalking, again, that's something that we have to look at and use our common sense on. The letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. If we have a situation where there's a long block, the spirit of the law says it's unreasonable for the person to go all the way down. And that's what we try to teach our officers to do, is to look at it with a reasonable, common sense approach to enforcing our rules in here. But of course, you've got to give them that discretion as well when we're enforcing it. To just say, hey, for these first one or two, there's not going to be any teeth to it, then why enforce it?
Correct. Thank you.
Did you want to say something, Ray?
Yes. Juanita, and I'll say this, and I'm not saying traffic court, okay, I'm saying traffic hearing. I know you like it. The traffic officers have an ability to make changes. The office will read the notice of violation. The committee people will listen to what has been said. They can then either lower the fine or disregard, fine the penalty, but no fine, so to speak, or ask a combination of things. So there is an ability to change it. Our officers are told in the past, unless the chief changes that, the officers have been told in the past, you cannot play let's make a deal. But what they generally do is if a person has a challenge, for instance, they're ill and so forth and so on, and they have to run into the bathroom, they're getting or throw up or whatever the case may be, they then tell us at the meeting of the hearing, and we take that into consideration and can play less, make a deal. So it is very well taken care of, and a lot of this, again, is with Chief Moy's help and so forth. We do the things the right way. The most important thing is to go along with what the program says, but there are rule changes or things that can be modified to make a change. So understand that. We're not that bad people in there. We try to make sure that it's done fairly for everyone.
Clarification again. All our three-story buildings have curbs that aren't curbs. They're extensions of the same level, but there is a drainage swath between the asphalt and the sidewalk. Is it okay to have your two wheels? Is it considered on the sidewalk if your two wheels are in that drainage swath?
No, Marty.
That's all I'm asking.
The ruling says 18 inches from the curb. Because there is no curb, there is a circular, like you say, that is permissible. Do not park on the side. In fact, that's a good rule to understand. This almost says, oh, here's the line. I can go this far. And that shows you exactly where you can go.
So the swale.
The swale
is
that's correct. That is part of the street.
Is considered part of the road.
That's part of the road,
Okay.
part of the street. That's correct.
But this business with the jaywalking becomes truly ambiguous because of the nature of our community. 50% cannot go to a distant corner. I think a lot of judgment has to be used.
Motion, and it's been seconded. All those in favor? Thank you, unanimous. Now we are on number 13C.
Anti-discrimination policy. Whereas Golden Rain Foundation is a nonprofit mutual benefit corporation existing under and by virtue of the laws of the state of California, pursuant to the provisions set forth in its articles of incorporation and bylaws. Whereas California Civil Code Section 4760A-2 provides in part that a member may modify his or her separate interest at his or her expense to facilitate access for persons who are blind, visually handicapped, deaf, or physically disabled, or to alter conditions which could be hazardous to these persons. These modifications may also include modifications of the route from the public way to the separate interest. Whereas federal law prohibits discrimination in housing based on race, color, religion, sex, natural origin, family status, and disability. Whereas federal law also provides that discrimination includes a refusal to permit at the expense of the handicapped person reasonable modifications of existing premises occupied or to be occupied by such person, if such modifications may be necessary to afford such person full enjoyment of these premises. Whereas California law prohibits the owner of any housing accommodation to discriminate against or harass any person because of race, color, religion, sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, marital status, national origin, ancestry, family status, source of income, disability, or genetic information of that person. Whereas California law also prohibits the owner of any housing accommodation to make or to cause to be made any written or oral inquiry concerning the race, color, religion, sex, gender, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, marital status, national origin, ancestry, family status, disability, or genetic information of any person seeking to purchase, rent, or lease any housing accommodation. Sub 2, any person to make, print, or publish, or cause to be made, printed, or published, any notice, statement, or advertisement with respect to the sale or rental of a housing accommodation that indicates any preference, limitation, or discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, gender, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, marital status, national origin, ancestry, family status, source of income, disability, or genetic information, or an intention to make that preference, limitation, or discrimination. And subsection III, to otherwise make unavailable or deny a dwelling based on discrimination because of race, color, religion, sex, gender identity, gender expression, sexual orientation, family status, source of income, disability, genetic information, or national origin. Whereas the bylaws provide that GRF has the express power and duty to manage, maintain, preserve, and administer the business of the development and to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the residents within the development. Whereas the board has the power to adopt, amend, or repeal in its discretion rules and regulations not inconsistent with the provisions of the governing documents respectively. And whereas GRF desires to strengthen, clarify, and confirm its anti-discrimination policy pursuant to applicable law. Now therefore be it resolved, February 6, 2018, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby introduces the anti-discrimination policy, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. This is the January initial notification. It will be postponed to comply with Civil Code 4360 for 30 days, which is why we have February 6th, because February only has 28 days. Yeah, I so move to accept this resolution.
Okay. Board discussion. Nobody? Okay, Maxine.
Thank you. My concern here, looking back over years with the boards, is trying to fit everything in, maybe missing something, trying to be very careful legally. This saying that somebody can notify the president of the board or another member. For one thing, that means all new members coming to a board every year will need some in-service on this in case someone approaches them. Otherwise, it might not be handled promptly. It might sound like another complaint that a board member writes down and saves until the next board meeting. Notice in your resolution that you start out with either California Civil Code or federal law in 4 of these paragraphs. Why not just simply say, we have a policy following California Civil Code and federal law, as well as GRF bylaws and regulations? Wouldn't that be possible? Just keep that written simple, and then you have no tight wall here built around any of this.
Judith.
I also have a question. Several places it mentions the word disability, but it doesn't specify. Are we to assume this is both physical and mental disability?
Yes.
Or do we have to
Yes.
spell it out? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And also, this was prepared by originally prepared by Jeff Beaumont, and then the other 2 attorneys wanted their boards to adopt something similar, so Bob reviewed this for us and made some comments. I don't recommend changing the California or the federal references because a lot of times they are a little bit different. One's more strict than the other, and depending upon the lawsuits they've been given. So I recommend leaving it the way it is.
Okay, even though in the second whereas it says, or physically disabled, it doesn't just say disabled. So that was my concern, is that to assume all the way down the other disableds are only referring to physically disabled. Should we take the word physically out of the first whereas, or second whereas?
Sure, you can do that. But I don't recommend
So that it's
changing.
consistent, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to do that, to make it consistent.
I think.
You would not?
You don't think we could change it?
That's the way the state law reads.
Pardon?
That's the way the state law reads.
It's not in quotes.
I have a question. At compliance, or in closed session, we've had situations where people who were less than stable mentally created problems, and we were then sanctioning them and prohibiting them from coming and going into certain places. Is this going to preclude that? I'm concerned about that because our primary function is to take care of the residents as a whole. So I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's a good point.
We had a case recently.
Do you know, Lori?
I don't, but if you continue this until after your committee reports, we'll have an attorney here.
Okay. Do that.
Or, and I apologize, I don't know, or we could just take this and take it up to the closed session and then bring it back on the next month's calendar.
We may do that too. Lori's going to talk to the lawyers.
It's already on next month's calendar, it's just initial.
Right.
So you can change it between now and then.
Thank you.
How, did United not have to worry about that? About the mental issues creating problems to the community at large?
Okay, Diane.
I think that in what you're saying in particular in the second paragraph, it's talking about altering altering something, and maybe that's why it's just referring to physically disabled. A member may modify his or her separate interest at his or her expense to facilitate access for persons who are. And so that's why
mentally,
maybe
there wouldn't be
That's a reasonable
alteration.
accommodation.
Okay,
that one.
okay.
It says physically, but.
That's how I read it the first time, but then it didn't distinguish, okay.
So the fact that it doesn't say physically sort of implies that it's both, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we start, we're postponing this?
So we're going to postpone it. We'll hear from the lawyers, and we may be postponing it to the next meeting. We'll talk about it in closed session. Okay?
Yeah, but since there's a motion on the floor, we have to vote it down, or I could pull it.
I'm just recommending that you move this to item 15D.
15.
Or whatever.
So we can take care of it today?
16, yeah, and then you can decide then.
Move it to 60.
So Judith,
Then I just make an amendment that this be moved to 15B later today in the same session.
I'll second that.
It'd be D like in dog.
We're not going to talk about 15D.
For future agenda items, 15D, all those in favor?
Okay.
Unanimous?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Almost. Are you voting to postpone?
I thought we were just going to
Mattson?
postpone it.
Jim Mattson, are you voting for?
Are you voting to postpone? Okay.
Okay, it is unanimous then. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. No, one. Oh, yeah.
So we can clarify.
Yeah.
Okay, one nay.
I thought we should have just talked about it as soon as the attorney gets. Why wait till next month?
That's what I meant. I don't, my apologies. I didn't mean to move it under future. I just meant to give it an agenda item.
Because in essence, we just took it,
Yeah.
we just took it out of, it's off today's meeting.
14G then would still be in today's meeting.
Right, there you go. Thank you.
14G.
So
Thank you.
which,
14G? Because that's committee reports, but,
So now you have me confused. We're moving it where, Judith?
well, I don't know, 14 is committee reports, but we can use it as G, 14G. I know that's under committee reports, but it's still before future agenda items.
can we instead move all of the committee reports up
ahead.
and just have them be heard prior to finishing new business? Is that an easier way to?
Yeah, same thing,
You
yeah.
could do that?
Yes.
Okay, so in that case, with doing that, what we're doing is, we're saying, we're waiting to hear from the lawyers. We can discuss it here or in closed session. We're not necessarily going to have to put it off another month. Okay? Is everybody clear on that? So we're not taking a vote now because we're going to get input from the lawyers. But hopefully we'll have a chance to hear from them before we get down to.
So 13C is postponed till after committee reports.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yes, correct. Okay. Okay, anybody else on that? Okay. We are now moving to, do we need to vote, Judy?
Yeah, we all have to agree.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
My
Okay.
amendment
Thanks.
goes to vote.
Thank you,
Did we
Joanne.
have a second on that, my amendment?
Yeah, we did
Okay.
have a second on that.
Okay.
So all those in favor of moving this discussion to the end of committee reports, please raise your hands. Okay, we're good to go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now where we are is committee reports.
Oh, yeah.
And Finance Committee, Director Phelps.
Okay, Cheryl, I'll start off with the slides, so when you're ready. There we go. Okay, so this is these are the preliminary financial statements for the period ending November 30th, 2017. So through November 30th, we have total revenue for GRF of $36,759,000 compared to expenses of $36,627,000, resulting in net income of $132,000. Next slide. This chart shows activity in operations separate from reserve and contingency funds activity. After backing out depreciation, which is not funded through operations, we had an operating deficit of $1,172,000 through November. But we need to remember that the board planned for an operating deficit for the year of $1.8 million as a means of returning prior year surpluses to members. So that just means we're on track. Slide 3. Excuse me, this slide shows favorable variances. So when we compare the November 30th figures to budget, we see a GRF is better than budget by $368,000, with the most significant variances attributable to the trust facilities fee because we had higher resale volume, which generated more fees, employee compensation, and this is in part due to outsourcing the aquatics operation, but you will see that there will be an offset in the expense side because we had outside services that we hadn't planned on. And income taxes, we had a considerable savings in our income tax we paid. For federal, our bill was $35,227, which was offset by a $30,000 tax credit for electrical vehicle purchases, and we paid just over $5,000 for the state. Slide 4. This shows our unfavorable variances. So we were worse than budget in the following areas: materials and supplies, which is an expansion of resident services, unbudgeted RFID stickers, and more supplies required in janitorial and broadband. Utilities, we had a higher cost for telephone, although there is some good news. In August, a new contract was signed with AT&T with significant savings. And then we have the outside services, as I mentioned above, that was aquatics, because that wasn't where they were originally budgeted for. Slide 5. On this pie chart, we show the non-assessment revenues received to date of $9,634,000 by category. Our largest revenue generating operation is broadband services, then there's trust facilities fee, clubhouse rentals, and golf operations, and so on. These revenues help offset and keep the assessments down. Sorry, slide 6. Expenses to date of $36,626,000 are shown here on a pie chart by category. The largest categories being compensation, depreciation, cable TV, and utilities. Slide 7. This is my favorite slide. The reserve and contingency fund balances are skewed. Shown on this slide, through November 30th, additions to reserve have been just over $3 million in assessments, $2.2 million in trust facilities fee, $340,000 in interest, and they combine the total additions to reserves to date of almost $6 million. It's $5,983,000. So although the funds, you'll see in the first column that they show a combined balance now of $35,815,000. we do have work in progress, as well as many projected expenditures approved by the board through either the capital plan or via supplemental appropriations. So after you consider those commitments, the unencumbered fund balances as of November 30th totaled $21,996,000. So that's it for the slides. But I want to mention again this month that we made the last payment on the 15-year loan that we had on this building, so we are officially debt-free. And I also want to mention that this is just an overview. If you want to, there are more detailed financial information or statements included in the Finance Committee meeting agenda packets. So you can get a hard copy of that if you actually come to the meeting. They're also available before the meeting in soft copy on the Team Up calendar app, and otherwise after the meeting I think they're put online. So there's more detail available, and if you have any questions, just ask and I'll let you know. Okay, so now the Finance Committee meeting report for December. In addition to the items that we've already talked about and voted on, we had a proposal to add a waiver that would have eliminated the trust facilities fee requirement for members who have previously paid the fee for a primary residence. The decision was made to adhere to the existing policy, which does not include such a waiver. And just briefly, we did talk about the ID replacement cards, and again, the GRF fee was, and remains at $25. And the only other thing I'd mention was that we now have two non-voting advisors, Alan Dickinson and Greg Crigliano, and we thank them for volunteering. Our next scheduled meeting of the Finance Committee is Wednesday, February 21st at 1:30 p.m. in the boardroom. Items on the agenda for discussion may include our collection policies, but if necessary, we will call a special meeting or an emergency meeting if we need to prior to that time, if one is required for the pickleball courts. Let's see. Lastly, I want to mention again that the GRF representative to the Select Audit Task Force resigned, so we are looking for a replacement. If you're interested, there should be information in the Globe or in what's happening in the Village e-blast. And that's it. Thank you.
I'm just going to sneak right in. Thanks for taking over for me. I'm feeling much better except for some back pain, so if I wince a few times, you'll know what I'm doing. But thank everyone for, I was watching at home, so everyone was doing excellent. Appreciate you stepping up, Judith and Joanne. Last minute. Joan was really, really sick.
Great teamwork. Great teamwork.
I appreciate it. So. All right. How about 14B, committee reports, CAC, Community Activities Committee.
Our next meeting is January 11th. Items on the agenda, 12A, B, and C, were a result of CAC motions. That's it. There's no update on it.
Okay. Thank you. One of the things I wanted to comment about the Finance Committee, do we still have the 2018 business plan books available?
They're online.
They're online.
Right.
So for the community, I get questions about them. They're online, go to it.
You can also go to the print shop or whatever we call it, the printing area, and I think that they sell it to you for a nominal fee, whatever it costs them to print it, if you don't want to print it yourself.
So residents can get that, can get one here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you go to the email that you just got yesterday, or a little afternoon, that says 8 and 18, one of those items leads you right to the Green Book. You can click right on it.
Excellent. And again, I've received a lot of questions about it, and I tell people, get the book, read it, please. If you have any questions, our Finance Committee would be available to answer them, so thank you. Okay, moving right along. Mr. Mattson, M&C.
Now, we did not have a meeting because it's every other month, but I do have the status on what's going on. We can have, we have 21 active projects going on, And just I'll give you a sample of what's going on. On pools 2, 4, and 6, all work is completed, and and a little bit left, but it should be done by the end of the month. And this work on these 3 pools here includes replacing heaters, filters, water line tile that's broken off at the surface of the water, and in one case we had to drain it and plaster the wall. Also on Clubhouse 4, the workshop there needs a new AC, so we're looking at replacing that. And hopefully that could be done next month. Clubhouse 1, dining room 2, and card rooms have been remodeled, which is complete. Main ballroom, kitchen floors was replaced, and 9 exterior doors were replaced. So that's looking a lot better over Clubhouse 1. At gate 12, Clubhouse 2 area, Lori mentioned earlier about this lawn bowling resurfacing will occur. And they're probably, I stopped by there yesterday and they have one of their big enclosed containers there, but they should be starting here real shortly. And that's going to take quite a while. As Lori mentioned, it's going to be about a 2-month job, and it should finish hopefully by the end of next month. And let's see, that's all I have right now.
Thank you. I think they're going to do the starting on January 5th for the lawn bowling, and I think.
This Friday, I think it's this.
They've already dropped off, they already have storage containers set up, roped off. The golfing community was advised of the safety, problems in the parking area, so that's important, and for everybody to realize there is construction going on and slow down when you're in the parking lot even more.
And fortunately, that's way down at the end of the gate there, and so that helps a lot.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to correct one thing, Jim. On the air conditioning for Clubhouse 4, there's a meeting Friday in Vanessa's office. We're talking about looking at another system.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mattson. Beth, the PAC, report on the PAC committee?
The Performing Arts Committee did not meet this past month. It's as needed basis, and the architects are working on responding to ideas and directions from the community. So we should be hearing from them shortly. What they are working on, first and foremost, is safety issues and getting us up to date on the stage, because there are some true concerns in our stage area, and that's where they're working right now.
Okay, thank you. Media and Communications Committee, that's my medication, thank you. Joan is obviously not here. Anyone else from the committee? Want to make, yes, go ahead.
Could do that. So Media and Communication Director Millman is ill, and Marketing and Communication report, docent tours, staff speaking engagements, and the social media project are really getting lots of attention on the web. People are very interested in that. Village TV policies and procedures. Mr. Holland reported on Village TV, And the committee concurred with the red line document, so that we're still looking at that document. Announcement of town hall meeting on cable boxes. We've talked about cable boxes earlier in this meeting. You may be interested in going to the town hall meeting, which will be January 10th, hosted in the community, where does it say where it is?
In here.
Here in the boardroom. Oh, thanks, Lori. Okay, on January 10th, here in the boardroom. Hosting club websites. All clubs are working on having their own club website within our website. If you need additional information on this, please contact Heather Rasmussen, and it really is a very good idea for each of our clubs, and I know there are so many of the clubs, to have your own website within this, that you would be able to manage the website on your own. And there was a big discussion about the whole home DVR system, which we discussed earlier in this meeting. Social media, Brand Taylor's social media, it was voted on to extend the contract for 6 more months. They had a contract for 6 months, and it will be coming up, and we voted in Media and Communication to extend it for another 6 months. And there are so many things that have happened as a result of the work that Brand Taylor's has done. An interesting thing our CEO, Brad Hudson, brought to us is some research that is being conducted by USC Annenberg Center for Health Journalism regarding opioid danger and the danger of the use of opioids and overuse, and folks dying from overdoses from opiates, which can be painkillers, different things. And so there was a discussion, and the CEO was directed to offer our village participation in their study. And so perhaps we could have someone come. We need to be able to inform the community of the dangers of opioid use. So the discussion is, how will we do it? And we'll be working with USC Annenberg on this, and we'll probably obviously use Village TV, probably The Breeze, maybe The Blast, maybe some town hall meetings. But that's in the works now, and that's something that we'll be participating in this particular study, because it was decided that it will be hopefully of great use to folks in our community. And that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mobility and vehicles, Judith, did you want to?
Joanne, do you want to report on
Joanne?
the meeting, and then I have
Talk
something after you?
briefly. I can talk briefly. One of the things that happened, Judith was on vacation, so
Right.
I chaired the meeting for her.
Right.
It was primarily Director Andre Torn of United, who asked pretty detailed questions about the cost per ride and the cost of ridership. And Bruce and Drew informed the committee that they would be coming back to the next meeting with answers to the questions and a pretty detailed report on what it costs the community for each one of us if we wanted to take a bus ride. I thought that was fascinating. The other thing is we moved the mission statement to the next meeting because I didn't really know what you wanted to do. And that's what happened at the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And I want to thank Joanne for chairing that meeting for me. In February, I will chair my first Mobility and Vehicles meeting, and I want to thank Joanne again for chairing last month while I was out of the country. In the meantime, I've been riding the buses and talking to bus drivers and bus riders while observing myself what seems to be working and what appears not to be working well. I've communicated with at least 58 residents so far, and we are a senior community, and we don't adjust well to quick change. But it's been my experience in the 7 years that I've lived here that any worthwhile change always goes through growing pains. Some of the complaints and requests that I get from bus riders are not only with the schedule. Some are really simple, like repeated requests for sanitizers on the buses are being ignored, all the way to having to wait 20 to 38 hours for advance reservations, even for an urgent doctor appointment or a medical test. The new rule is, quote, call by noon the day before. So if you find out at 1 p.m., which is afternoon, from your doctor on a Monday that you need to go and have an x-ray that day or the next day, by Tuesday, you need to find other transportation because the Easy Rider won't be able to accommodate you doing according to this new rule up until Wednesday, for example. So on the other side of the coin, we have drivers that are being verbally and sometimes physically abused by residents riding the bus. In one case, a female resident went up to the driver, verbally assaulting him while the bus was moving, putting all passengers at risk. And when I asked the bus drivers why they don't complain, I was told, quote, they have but get reprimanded for doing so, unquote. I do understand that bus drivers and the gate ambassadors have to sign an agreement not to complain to GRF directors or they will be reprimanded. But I expect to be very proactive on this committee since even more changes are scheduled for the future and we need to properly prepare our residents. I have been in communication with Bruce Hartley, who has been extremely welcoming and open to help as much as he can. And another suggestion I was given was flyers on the bus, because a lot of people that ride the bus don't use the internet and maybe don't even read the Globe, but they used to have flyers on the bus, even if just one's posted or flyers available, about new changes coming, because those are the people that need to know about the future changes, not necessarily people who are using internet. They're usually more capable of getting around on themselves. So that's just some of the things. I have a whole notebook here full of suggestions for Bruce, which I'm meeting with this week. And the next meeting has been changed to February 7th at 1:30, and I'm assuming in this room? Okay, thank you. That concludes the mobility report.
Thank you, Judith. Report on security and community access. Director Solon.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Basically, we met on December 21st, and I stated the priorities will be the gate access system, and I also announced that Director Bruninghouse from the 3rd Laguna Hills Mutual will replace Director Parsons on that committee. Chief Moy, in response to all the member comments, said he'll work with General Services and the landscape departments to address the concerns presented. And on the RV update, basically, Chief Moy advised that security has made the RV lots a priority due to the long waiting list and the significant number of unkept RVs and boats. The waiting list now has been lowered from 70 plus to 11, and additional space openings should be filled within the week. Of a noteworthy incident for security, Chief Moy informed the committee that a security supervisor observed a suspicious male subject in the area of the RV Lot B late in the evening. He contacted the individual and called for backup. The Orange County Sheriff's Department was dispatched and the subject was taken into custody, basically for possession of a syringe, narcotics, and a bench warrant. Security statistics, looking at that, before I do any more on that, Chief Moy did talk to us at the committee about the homeless encampments. He's working closely with the Orange County Sheriff's Department, and he continues to work with the city and the sheriff to address the problem. And now that Santa Ana is taking apart their homeless encampments, there's over 1,000 of them from the bike trails and over by the river path. We expect to see a little bit more coming this way. So he's asking the residents, I know a lot of them are very generous with food, with money, with lots of things, but he's just saying it's a conundrum because basically we don't want these people to be camping out in the bushes. So we have to be careful, okay, for everyone. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to form a committee. Chief Moy is going to form a committee and talk to some of the directors and see and just get some more input on certain approaches to help with that problem. Our security statistics. There was a daytime burglary in a manor and it was ransacked while the residents were away for a short time, and what the chief is suggesting. Of course, the sheriff's department was called and it was investigated, but he is telling everybody, please lock your doors. And, you know, we don't want to say this, but we do always say lock it or lose it. So in that particular incident, their home was locked. But as far as any minor thefts that we get in carports and stuff. Items for future agendas is clubhouse generators, golf cart policies and procedures, plug-in vehicle policies and procedures, and standardized fees. Our next meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 22nd at 1:30 p.m. in the Laguna Woods Village Community Center Boardroom, which is right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, report on traffic hearings. Director Gross.
All right, I have only the October system here, but that's due to the fact that staff, because of the holidays and such. Annette, there's a very important information you asked about. How can we find out how many of these repeat offenders and so forth? Well, our coordinator, traffic coordinator Paul Nugent, can give you that information.
Okay.
It's readily available. He knows how many and so forth and so on.
Thank you.
We only had 10 persons at the traffic committee hearing, and it was relatively short. But there was also some mention about how do you take care of a challenge situation? Can we play let's make a deal, so to speak? And there is a methodology here that we have. For instance, we had, just to give you an idea how this works, we had over 2,800 notices of violation issued. We had 250 voided and suspended. What we do on that is that we have a way of, like I said earlier, if someone is ill, for instance, and they're going into the home and they can't talk to the officer, they'll tell them, hey, I'm sorry, but I got to go. The officer will get their license plate number, send them a letter, and then they come at the hearing. We then listen to what has to be done and so forth and so on. And under those circumstances, many times we will excuse the situation, or there may be other reasons for medical and or other reasons, and we do listen to that, and that's what we have the availability to do that change. We've had at least 80 people attend this past month for the school, which is a very beneficial. It's only $20, and it's a couple of hours a day. We have it 4 days a week, and it's in this office here in this area. It's very, very informative. You get a lot of good information. Real quick, at the Foot Patrol, Chief, you were talking earlier about the bike, Laura, you were talking about the bike patrol and so forth and so on. Well, this will be added to the Foot Patrol, so to speak. Just as an idea what happens, the Foot Patrol people go ahead and take care of what a situation exists. They then notify the proper persons as to how to rectify these things. For instance, under fire hazards, for a total for the year were 46. For hazards themselves were 536. For light problems, there were 770. For maintenance situations, there were 209. For perimeter defense situations and problems, there were 135. Pest problems were 12. Signs were 49, for a total of 896. Miscellaneous also. Again, the most important things that are happening at the traffic hearings is due to the fact that people are running stop signs and speeding. And also, again, many people think because they're over age, so to speak, they don't need a driver's license or get their vehicles re-registered. And we have quite a few of those. Expired registration, 444. That is a lot of registration people. And then just for the 1 month, 15 people for limited parking and expired licenses, unlicensed drivers, 60. That is very, very important. This is for the safety factor here because of the insurance for the rest of us. If you don't get your license renewed, you don't have insurance, consequently, you get into an accident with them, guess what? They have no insurance. So we were trying to take the safety of the people who are involved. That'd be my report. Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. And that, one of the things in my conversations with Tim Moy, we're not talking about let's make a deal. What we're talking about is allowing employees to use discretion in certain circumstances that's obviously would save us administrative time, save a resident from coming down to the traffic hearings if it's not necessary, because in the field, the officer determined that it was an emergency situation or whatever. It's about having employees having a little discretion, and I would really like to see you and Tim Moy further that movement, so to speak, okay? Thank you. Let me see here, who's next? Judith again, the Disaster Preparedness Task Force.
Okay, thank you. January report. Last year, the VMSI Security Department began updating the village emergency operations plan previously managed by our Disaster Preparedness Office. In order to bring the plan up to industry standards, experts in the field were hired to coordinate with our staff, County Emergency Management Sheriff's Department, the City of Laguna Woods, the Fire Authority, the Red Cross, California Edison, and the El Toro Water District. In order for the first responders to have a standardized response procedure, it was necessary to develop a plan that conforms to both California and national standards. The emergency operations plan includes emergency warning systems, possible evacuations here in the village, use of clubhouses as care and reception centers, the Easy Rider buses as a form of transportation source, and communications with our emergency command center through and with the help of our own Laguna Woods Village Ham Radio Club. At monthly meetings, the task force is represented by VMS Security, GRF, Third Mutual, United Mutual, and various support teams. The task force did not meet in December due to the holidays. Otherwise, we do meet once a month to review and better inform ourselves on emergency operating procedures. We are encouraging residents to step up and be assigned as a good neighbor building captain for your building, not to be confused with village green building captains. In case of a disaster, such as an earthquake or community fire or any other natural disaster, a good neighbor building captain only has to knock on your neighbor's door to see if anyone is injured and in need of assistance. Then they fill out a brief form identifying the status of the resident and the unit itself. In other words, if there was a fire, water leak, etc. And then report that information to your nearest clubhouse or care and reception center. This is how the first responders get their information, and it's the fastest way for them to get care to those in need. We are also propagating a list of individuals with any medical background. Those volunteers could assist at our clubhouse care and reception centers. Please consider volunteering for either of these valuable positions in your community. It is a rewarding experience and a wonderful way to support your neighborhood community. If you're interested, please contact myself or the Disaster Preparedness Office located on the first floor in this building. Working together, we create a culture of preparedness, and that's the task force motto. Thank you. That ends my report.
Thank you, Judith. Okay, item 15, future agenda items. Did we? Oh, that, yeah, you did tell me. 13C then, okay.
We moved it to,
I was unaware of that, I'm sorry.
yeah. But there's no lawyer here.
He's not here.
So we should be
right.
doing 13G. C.
So
Okay, let's go to 13C. Lori?
So I thought that Bob and Fred would be here. I know they're on their way, but since it's on 30 days, you don't need to vote on it anyway. You just need to introduce it, and then we can discuss it in closed session. If there's no major changes, you can adopt it in February. If there are major changes, you can just do the 30 days in February.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. Is that, I think that's the right thing to do. Okay. All right. Now we can go to 15, I guess. Future agenda items. In the future, we're going to entertain a motion to adopt a resolution to approve a digital pay tier system with whole home DVR. These are just things, we don't,
Yeah.
right, right.
Right, you just announce them,
I'm just announcing
Mr.
them
Chair,
right now.
for
That's all I'm doing.
transparency.
Right. Another one in the future, to adopt resolution making amendments to the traffic monetary penalties. And entertain a motion to adopt the anti-discrimination policy that we just were talking about, that we'll be working on in the future. With that, a question? Yes.
I have a question for Judith. Can we just move an item from open session to closed session and then back to open?
Only if it's an emergency.
So we're not supposed to discuss this? We're not supposed to discuss
In closed-
anti-discrimination policy in our closed session now? Because,
No, we can discuss it, but as long as we bring it back to the next open session.
right. Okay, so we can discuss it.
Yeah.
You're not going to vote on it.
That
Yeah,
was
we're
the
not gonna
question.
There will be no
Not on the
vote.
agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, that's at the advice of our attorneys. Okay. Director comments. Dick Palmer, you're up. Thank you. Annette.
No comment, thank you.
Joan.
I want to say thank you to this whole board. Thanks for the teamwork this morning, stepping up to the plate. Appreciate it.
Ray?
Yeah, I too say thanks and have a good holiday. Get well. Also, I have information on Laguna Canyon Foundation. Every month, I make sure to have at least 40 copies originally made at the beginning of the month placed at the front. There's a lot of information on on these sheets. You talk about discovery hikes, fitness hikes, family hikes, keep it wild, and many things. There are 4 pages. Once that amount of 40 copies are gone, we make more, just to make sure that you have enough. But it's done every month. If you need to contact them, the way to do it, the easiest way, is to make a phone call to them, which is 949-497-8324. 949-497-8324. That's Monday through Friday, and they will give you information on this. Thank you.
Diane? Judith?
I just want to compliment Beth for chairing this meeting. She did an excellent job, and kudos to her. Very good. And wish everybody a happy new year. Mine started out fantastic with all the grandkids coming over. Thank you.
Jim?
Glad our president's back, and Happy New Year, everybody.
I had a very eventful, I just was talking to Joan, and she sounded really bad yesterday. And wasn't 20 minutes after I hung up the phone, I wrenched my back and was in bed all night. So that's why I got dressed and I started to come down here, but I got hit real hard with some medication, and I probably shouldn't have, so I stayed in bed and so I'm fine now. Thank you, everybody, for pitching in. Recess, adjourn, upstairs for lunch. This meeting is adjourned.
How early is it?
Rested. Recess. Yeah.